Hello, this is Steven, and yes, we're back with another Batman 66 episode review. Today, we'll be reviewing the episode, That Darn Catwoman. Yeah, that's the name of the episode, That Darn Catwoman, with, of course, by the title suggests, Catwoman once again back to play a dynamic duo. So without further ado, let's get into the review. We'll begin our episode with essentially Robin at a college university giving essentially a lecture on staying in school, helping out your local police. It's a bit on the nose, but you gotta understand, at this time, main authorities in that really, like, were trying to say that being a dropout is a bad thing. Now, these days, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, true, being a dropout is not gonna always, I mean, don't get me wrong, you drop out, there's no guarantee that, your life is going to go fully downhill, but that doesn't mean that dropping out doesn't mean that your life's going to get any better. That was hammer on the nose with that, and around this time, many TV shows that were directed to kids really controlled that type of medium. Anyway, so back to the review. Whilst he's doing that, Catwoman and her new accomplice, Pussycat, yes, that's her name, are essentially stalking Robin. And she has her new accomplice go up to him and essentially scratches him behind the neck, which he is then exposed to this kind of drug, which turns him into some kind of wild, criminal, almost a bully type figure. And this especially happens when Chief O'Hara comes along. Not only does he not recognize Chief O'Hara, but physically assaults him, essentially becoming some kind of what I'm sure at the time would have been a delinquent. There's, of course, the usual call to Batman, who gets informed about this. Opening credits, he gets back to Commissioner Gordon's office. Whilst there, they are then discussing the whole event. Batman is finding this hard to believe, and it doesn't take Batman long to realize that a new criminal's behind this. However, Chief O'Hara says, well, that's hard to say, that this new criminal, considering how young she is. But Gordon points out, well, in this day and age, who will know? Ironically, that's a statement that could be more associated for today's social climate than I'm sure it was back then. But just as that's happening, we then cut back to Wayne Manor with Alfred and Aunt Harriet, essentially in the living room, talking about why Aunt Harriet can't go into Wayne's study. I like how she's addressing this. Why can't she go in there? And even though Alfred does give a kind of excuse, that is interrupted when Catwoman, Pussycat, Robin, and her entire crew come bursting into the lounge room and tie them up and rob essentially the wall safe. Here's revealed that the drug completely reverses. Here we get more explanation to the drug. It reverses Robin's complete personality, but it has a few side effects. First off, it causes a bit of amnesia. He can't recognize anyone, but it's also that because it's quite experimental, he ends up passing out. Once that whole scenario is over, Alfred gets a chance to call on the bat phone to Batman, informing about Robin and everything, and how Catwoman's behind the whole thing. With that out of the way, we then go back to Catwoman, Pussycat, and her entire crew at her hideout. It's revealed Robin, of course, is just asleep, trying to dream of the whole drug. And here we get the scene where Pussycat essentially does a sort of song routine, and I'll explain a bit more about her in the later part of the review. We then find out that Catwoman's also getting involved in some robberies to raise money for the plans for the Gotham City Mint. Now, that's the thing, the Mint prints coins, not cash, but hey, it's back then, I can give it a pass. What ends up happening, Catwoman ends up robbing one of the richest inventors, though cheapest inventors, money, which apparently he doesn't keep his money in a safe, but in a mattress. She ends up robbing it all, and when Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara kind of not interrogate him, but ask him questions on what he could, or where she could be next, the only evidence he could give them is a prince getting weighed. Gordon and Chief O'Hara managed to piece it together, something in vain to what Batman and Robin would do. Realizing that, they then head to the elevator to essentially inform Batman about it. We then go to the prince getting himself weighed, as, you see, they're weighing his weight with currency, and once the cash equals his weight, all that money will be transferred to all the orphans of the country. Batman, I should say, pops up and tells, and hopefully to Robin to recognize him, but he doesn't. Batman ends up fighting all the Catwoman's goons before having a fist fight with Robin, but he can't bring himself to actually physically harm them, though he gets a thrashing. And I'm enjoying a little bit of this scene. Eventually Catwoman, Robin, Pussycat, and the rest of her crew end up making their escape with Batman on hot pursuit. He manages to find out to their hideout, but Catwoman knows and plans him to fall into a trap. What ends up happening is Batman gets essentially trapped by a false ruse that Robin was secretly held captive, gets essentially knocked out, and is essentially put into this giant mouse trap, essentially, with Robin cutting the rope. If Batman doesn't agree to join her crew, he would essentially harm Robin. I think Batman doesn't fully believe that she will go through with her word, and that's kind of our cliffhanger. I got a lot of problems with how this whole cliffhanger is, but I will admit, it's ironic of being in a mousetrap considering it is the Catwoman. I gotta admit, a few things I'm liking with this episode. First off, I like that scene where Chief O'Hara and Commissioner Gordon figure out Catwoman's next move. I admit, I really like it. The scene with Alfred and Harriet are fun as always, and I like how essentially Alfred helps Batman figure out more of the plot. And here we get something interesting with Batman and Robin, with Robin essentially being a criminal, working for the bad guys, though under different circumstances. Sort of mind control is really different, and it puts Batman in a dilemma with him having to work by himself, not just to apprehend Catwoman, but get Robin out from under her spell. It's all very fun. And speaking of Catwoman, Julie Newmar back in Catwoman. I think this season was, the best season for Catwoman, I will be honest. While she doesn't make much appearances in regards to, I would say, the Joker making the most appearances of this season, it's really great that we get to see her. And I really like her plot with Robin being a part of her gang, because as we've always seen throughout the season, she detests Robin. She loves Batman, but detests Robin. And we do get to see that she really has quite the crush and attraction to Batman. And we've seen in episodes that Batman kind of has the same feeling, but his first sworn duty is to crime fighting. I like that little bit about her. It's nice, and it's a fresh change of pace. Though granted, she is up to a new criminal scheme, but I do like how Robin is included more, and she apparently likes her more this way than she did in the previous episodes, which I admit, it's nice little fun. I also like this time, just like when she teamed up with the Sandman, she is not alone, she has a criminal partner, though it's under different circumstances this time. When it was clear that Sandman was really running the show, and she was clearly lending her services, this time she's running the show and she has a criminal who's a bit more complicated. Here this time, Catwoman is teaming up with Leslie Gore, hopefully that name is being pronounced right. And essentially okay, now if you don't know who the actress is, she's actually more of a singer, and she was pretty popular at the time and was 20. Now I really don't mind her character here, and I really wish that she could have gotten just as equal top billing. I like her character here. She essentially wants to be a singer, a rock and roll star, but she's involved in crime with Catwoman, who's clearly manipulating her and saying that she's too old for that. And how she was over the hill for that, lifestyle, while being a rock star. She's too old for it. Ironically, at the time she was bigger than ever. I like her. Now, there's the scene where she's singing, even though it's clearly dubbed, that's her actual song, so I don't really think it's bad. And I admit, the song's kind of grown on me. I was never a huge fan of it, and I never understood why she went to sing, but it was clear that she was huge at the time, and that really confuses me more to why she didn't get equal top billing. She would do another song on the second part, and I do like her little relationship with Robin, under the evil spell, compared to Catwoman. Almost kind of mirrors Catwoman and Batman's. There's kind of a little contrast there, and it's kind of like a miniature relationship compared to Batman and Catwoman. She's really fun, and I really wished that she could have just gotten some form of top billing, instead of clearly being a sort of glorified cameo, which in reality she is not, and it's kind of saddening to kind of be that way. However, I will admit, she does play a bit of a role in the plot and the story, which I really, really, really like. And her and the way she works off Julie Newmar, for me, really makes this character really work with that incarnation. That Darn Catwoman is, for me, a really fun, so far good episode. Following, the great Joker's great three-parter, well, technically Joker and Penguin's great three-parter, this episode is really good. We're introduced to a new concept of Robin being under mind control, a kind of mind control also as being drugged to work with the villain is very new, different, and fresh. It feels different, and I like that so much. And the fact we get Julie Newmar back as Catwoman doesn't hurt. I can't really point out any flaws with this particular episode, but I really enjoy it, and I can't wait to see where the next part takes us. And there we have it, That Darn Catwoman. Join us next time for the second part in this adventure. So, until next time, tune in for the same Steven hour on the same Steven channel. Ladies and gentlemen, so long for now.